All right. Good morning to those that are nice and early, jumped on. I don't know where you are uh, calling in from. I'm in a very fairly cold Pretoria. It's trying to stay warm. I believe the rest of South Africa is actually very chilly. If you're in a warmer place, please say hello in the chat. Tell us your name. Tell us where you work for, perhaps, and tell us where you're calling us from to join this conversation. It's good to see a lot of you all jumping in. Numbers are actually looking fairly strong already, and I can see those must have been a lot of people in that waiting room. So good to see everybody. So good morning. Good morning from a cold, cold Pretoria. I hope you're all well. As you jump on the call, it's important for you, please, to select all attendees and panelists. That'll help us interact with you and interact with the panelists as well. So select all attendees and panelists as you get onto the call if you want to communicate. And as always, and if you've been in a few of our call webinars before, say hi in the chat. Tell us your name, where you're calling from. If you're in any warm part of the world, cold, cold, cold Bloom, says Net Vessels. Cold Durban, KZN. Yeah, I'm in a cold Pretoria too. So good to see you guys. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Pretoria is not usually this cold, and I'm seeing a lot of people in the cold parts of the country. It's that cold front that's coming. Morning, Maggie. Good to see you too. And as I said, guys, please select all panelists and attendees, or all attendees and panelists, so that we can all interact with your messages, with your communication. So thank you for that, Charlotte from Polokwane. Tinashe is also just jumped in. All panelists and attendees, if you can. Western Cape, I hope you guys are okay out there, and you're not as cold as we are here. All right, so my name is Brian. I'm the community manager at CFO South Africa, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar, which is brought to you by Sage. I hope you listen in out there for how to improve your financials and processes, avoid any pitfalls, follow best practices for automation and controls, and ensure you have a clean opinion from your auditor. So I see a lot of people still coming in. Thank you for that. Let us know your name. Hi, Barbara. Select all panelists and attendees so that we can all see your communication. And hey, you'll have an opportunity to ask your questions as when we kick off our session. So just to give you a good sense, we will start off, with this introduction phase, and then we'll go into our a presentation, which will take us perhaps no more than 10, 15 minutes. And then we'll have, I'll bring all my esteemed guests onto the panel. We'll have a quick conversation on some of the benchmarks for audit-ready financials. You'll also have an opportunity to ask any questions that you'd like to our panelists regarding this topic. To do so, please go into the chat panel. At any point, post your question. You can ask if you have anything pressing, and you select all panelists and attendees so we can all see what you would like to say. Okay. In the current fast-changing complex business landscapes, there's an increased investor and stakeholder need to access audit-proofed financials, as you already know. How can you, as finance leader, be better prepared for these ongoing escalating demands? Well, I've got just the people that will help us get a sense of what that looks like. How can you get top of the complex areas of your business of revenue recognition and receivables and consolidation? I'm sure there's a lot of questions in there. So I'm hoping that today, after this session, some key takeouts will, that you will get from this session are and include: how do you improve your processes to preparing audit-ready financials? Have a better understanding of how to avoid common pitfalls, your tricks and trades of the automation and the best practices, SOX testing, perhaps we have some insights there, and ways to ensure your company earns a clean opinion from your auditor, right? Those conversations, make them smooth, make them enjoyable, the conversations we have with the auditors. Thank you very much for jumping on the call. We've got a very good number of you, and a lot of people have already identified who they are and where they're calling us from. So if you're hoping to come to a benchmark for Audit Ready Financials webinar, you're definitely in the right place. If you've stumbled onto the wrong webinar, stick around. You might learn a thing or two. All right. I think we've got a fairly good number of us that are already in attendance. We might want to start to get the show on the road. And today we delve into some of the best practices in your journey to financial automation. And we're very fortunate today to have two top finance leaders in Jordan Berger. He's the VP Finance at Sage Middle East and Africa, as well as the APAC, and as well as Brad Wenzel, who's the CFO of Douglasdale Dairy. Gentlemen, I'll start with you. Jordan, just say good morning, and then I'll move on quickly to Brad to say good morning.
Good morning, Brian, and good morning to everyone that's attending. I see lots of people from interesting places, Benoni, the Strand, Bloemfontein. I think all of us are cold. It's a privilege to be on this call with you, and I think it's going to be a good conversation. Looking forward to having a good panel discussion with you as well, Brad.
Yes, thanks, guys. Hello, everyone. There's some names on the participant list I actually recognize, so hi to all of you, and looking forward to having a good chat and figuring things out.
Awesome, guys. So am I. Looking forward to this conversation. So to kick us off, I wanted to get a sense of who we have in the audience. So we're going to have a quick icebreaker, as this is what we call it in the world of virtual, an icebreaker, a virtual icebreaker. So to do that, I'm going to run a quick poll just to get a sense of what we know, what are our expectations. You'll see the questions pop up on your screen. Please participate if you can. There's three questions. The first one, do you trust cloud-based application software? It's a yes or no question. Do you trust it? Second question, according to the World Economic Forum, where does South Africa currently rank in terms of auditing and reporting standards? Good to know. I see a lot of us do not have any trust issues, so that's pretty good. We'll keep the conversation going. Third question is, how long do medium-sized businesses expect their accounting systems to last before considering an upgrade? How long do you think it takes? Think about your business. How long do you think it's taken you to start considering that upgrade? How long have you stayed with the system? How long have you looked for a new vendor? When do you explore some of those questions? Okay, leave it running for a couple more minutes. If we can hit a 80%, I'll be very happy. 80% rate of response, I'll be very, very happy. We're doing very well. Three questions. First one, fairly simple. Do you trust cloud-based application software? Most people are saying yes. There is a few people that are not quite sure or do not trust application-based software. And then where does South Africa rank in reporting in terms of auditing and reporting standards? How do you think we're doing? Are we in the bottom 10? Are we number 100? Are we number 49? 61, top 10? There is a definite answer in that one. Third question, how long do medium-sized businesses expect their accounting systems to last before considering an upgrade? This is more of a fact, but good to know. Good to know where people stand. There's no fact. It's about experience and what you have done individually as a business. Okay. Tethering around the 75% mark. I see a couple of people that just joined in as well. If you just joined in, quickly rush to the poll. 3 easy questions. I'm going to close it up in the next couple of seconds. But if you can, let us know what your thoughts are. Those 3 quick icebreaker questions. Okay, I think 75% seems to be the best that we can do. I can just going once, going twice. I'm going to end the poll. Thank you very much for all those that have participated. If you just joined us, Let us know where you are. If you want to ask any questions, select all panelists and attendees, and we will be good to go. Okay, so I closed it off. Our typical results that we can see there, most people, at least 76% of us, trust cloud-based application software. And then according to the World Economic Forum, where does South Africa rank? I think most people were kind of tied, actually, within top 10. Others are saying we're 49th. Very interesting. We'll delve into those responses as we continue with our session. And the third question, how long does it take medium-sized businesses to consider an upgrade of their accounting systems? 55% of us are saying 3 to 5 years. Significant numbers still say 5 to 10 years. So that'll be an interesting number there. Okay, so we'll keep those numbers in mind. Hopefully we can touch on them as the session goes on. If you have any questions, use the chat. I'm going to call on Jordan Berger. He's perhaps going to help us kind of set the foundation of our session today as we get into today's program. And you're done whenever you're ready. I believe you've prepared something that you wanted to share with us. And there it is, it's coming on screen. Thank you. And you're done, over to you.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot, Brian. And like I said, it's really good to be on this webinar today and to share some insights. Hopefully the people attending will find this useful. We're having this webinar under very challenging circumstances in our country, and we need to just quickly talk about that as well. Like our president said on Monday evening, this is the worst unrest we had in our country since our democratic birth. And I think it's very important for us during times like this to think what's the right thing that we need to do. I think businesses are going to play a critical role in helping us rebuild after this. I hope that all of this will soon be over and that we can start with that rebuilding very soon. But we're going to play a big role in that. There was economic damage done, and that's where businesses will have to come to the fore and help us to take things to the next level, to restore and then rebuild. Our EVP for SAGE in Africa, Middle East and APAC, Peter Bench, addressed all of the SAGE colleagues on Tuesday, and his closing remark was, at least we know that we are resilient. So as South Africans, at least we know we can deal with adversity, and we will definitely bounce back. I want to kick off with the overview of what it is that we are doing in SAGE, Africa, Middle East and APAC. Just struggling with the technology. There we go. So very recently, we've merged the regions Africa, Middle East and Asia Pacific. All of this means that we've got a new region name. It's now Africa, Middle East and Asia Pacific, which is a very long or lengthy name. This happened after a substantial portion of our APAC business was disposed of. And what that's enabled us to do in Australia and in Asia is to focus on some of our global products in the medium segment specifically. The names I'd like to highlight there, Sage Intact and X3. Those are definitely key strategic products for us in that region specifically, but also in Africa, Middle East, as everyone would have seen. So we're very excited with this merger of the regions and looking for strong growth. What's been good over the last couple of years from a SAGE perspective, it's that our strategy has been clear and constant. So we've basically determined the 4 quadrants where we want to operate. If you think about small accounting and small payroll, that's definitely a focus for us, but then also medium accounting and medium payroll. Small businesses need us to help with our software. We're trying to address issues such as saving them time, helping them to invoice quickly and to convert their efforts into cash, and helping with compliance. I think those are the most important things for a small business, and that's where our small accounting and small payroll, where we're trying to fill those gaps for small businesses. Medium segment is slightly more complex, and that's where I think customers expect us to provide them insight into their businesses. it addresses areas such as compliance, but I think that insight element is critical. My biggest frustration in my day-to-day operations as a CFO in Sage is when I'm asked questions about financial data to back up strategic decisions, and I don't have the answer readily available. I need to go and have a look and analyze some numbers to be able to give that answer to address a strategic decision we need to make. And that's frustrating. And that's where we want to, with our software, help medium-sized customers to get the necessary insight and get to the answers quickly. Since the topic of today is the audit-ready financials, I just want to briefly touch on the audit profession and where we are at in South Africa. So why are we doing audits? What purpose do they serve? What's the perception out there on audits? The poll question, the second question, is a very good one. We were ranked #1 globally for 7 years in a row by the World Economic Forum on auditing and reporting standards. #1 for 7 years. In 2017, we dropped 29 places down to #30. And I believe today we are #49. So the correct answer was #49 from #1. So we've lost an awful lot of ground. There have been a couple of scandals where a lot of the big names have played a role. KPMG, I think, was hardest hit with their ties to state capture. I know all of us will remember VBS Bank. Deloitte suffered some hits with the sign-off scandal. So I think it's good to get a wake-up call sometimes, the audit profession. In my view, there's still a very critical role that the audit profession needs to play in protecting the public's interest. I remember a couple of years back when this whole public interest score calculation came to the fore, which either made an audit voluntary or mandatory for you as a business. I was involved with a business at that point in time where the public interest score calculation actually said the audit is not mandatory. But the chairman of the board said, no, absolutely not. We will continue with our external audits because that shows to our shareholders that we are not afraid of scrutiny by an external party. And that gives confidence in the management of the business. So this auditor versus audit client, the heading is a bit dramatic, but in the end, we are going to have an auditor that does an awful lot of work for weeks or months. The outcome of that will be a 2-pager where they're expressing their audit opinion, and that audit opinion is going to be relied upon by external parties such as lenders. So I think it's very important to understand that the auditor comes with a very good mindset of professional skepticism, but they are going to inspect our records. And what we need to do is to try and make it as easy as possible for them. Our goal as companies that are being audited is to ensure that our financials present the lowest possible risk of material misstatement. So we want to reflect our transactions and balances and have the necessary supporting documents to support that and the frameworks that we use to report our numbers on. What the auditor will be doing is they're going to be checking our calculations. They're going to want to see those source documents. They're going to want to verify the assets. They're going to focus on areas of complexity and judgment. Think revenue. At some point, they're going to start pulling the balances apart, and they're going to want to look deeper and deeper and understand where these balances or numbers that we're reporting on are coming from. Earlier this week, I spoke to Lundy Oosterbroek, who's our finance operations director for Sage, to get some insight from her. And there's a lot of things that are important for the audit client. We want to get this audit done in the shortest period of time. We want to be there for the auditors to give them access to this information, but we want to make it a pleasant exercise. And we want to prove that we know that what we're doing is the right thing. We want to prove that we've got a solid control environment. So I think that's what we as audit customers set out to do. If we think about focus areas, I'm going to start off with the general and the system efficiencies first. Integration and automation is key. I'm a massive Excel fan, and I grew up with Excel, and I think I'm rather competent with the use of Excel, but gone are the days where we run a revenue recognition Excel schedule on the side, and then bring in the results monthly with journal entries into our accounting system. It just doesn't work anymore. If we extract reports from our accounting system into Excel, we manipulate data, and we present it in a certain way, 5 minutes later, that Excel report of yours is outdated because transactions have been captured in the meantime. Think about payroll, your payroll running on one side and you having to bring in your payroll numbers into your accounting system. It should be integrated. I think we need to adopt a do once, use many attitude. In other words, focus on building dashboards in your accounting software that get updated continuously. I know it's an effort that you need to put in to build those dashboards and reports, but you will be using that an awful lot of time. Digitize your workflows. If you can demonstrate to the auditor that you've got solid approvals throughout your process, it's going to give them a lot more comfort on your control environment, and they're going to spend less time on substantive testing. If we touch on something complex such as revenue, think about how important revenue is. It's at the top of your P&L. So all of the balances below your revenue line is impacted by your revenue number, the number that you report there. Even your balance sheet is going to be impacted by that. So how can a solid financial accounting system help you to get your revenue ready for audit? I think it's important to have your revenue recognition principles built into your accounting system, either by code, or if you're a services business, build in on a contract by contract basis, maybe something like your milestone billing and how that's going to work and how your rev rec is going to run from that. If you sell products, software products like we do, a good example is our product codes have the revenue recognition principles built into them. So the moment that product code appears on one of our invoices, the revenue recognition will follow in the background from the invoice. If you think about things like accounts receivable, how can a solid financial system help you to get that audit ready? I think it's important to build up that balance per customer and hold the payment history per customer indefinitely. When you get to things like IFRS 9, where there's an area of judgment and you're going to have to be able to prove to the auditor why you're saying you don't see a significant risk on a certain balance, it's important to have that information readily available. And if you've got things like auto allocations of payments in your accounting system, it bodes an awful lot in terms of efficiency, but like I said, also building up that history per customer. Consolidations, massive issue in terms of complexity. I remember many years back when I was doing audits, customers have an Excel spreadsheet, a complicated Excel spreadsheet where they do all of their consolidation and elimination entries. In some cases, what the auditors do is they go and do the consolidation all over in their own Excel template, because it's easier to do the whole consolidation from scratch than to try and unpick or understand what the customer has done to get to their consolidated financials. So accounting and financial tools have come a long way in recent years in automating consolidations. There are products, I'm not here to punt something like Intact, but our Intact product in the medium segment has got all of the consolidation entries running in the background in product. You're doing your consolidation in product in real time, and you've got access to those consolidated reports whenever you need it. To address that question, which I said, which is frustrating if someone asks you a question, you don't have the data available. If you've got it running in your product and it's real time, then you've got that immediate access. I think if we just think a bit further in terms of general efficiencies, what we can do to make audits easier, closing our accounts efficiently. If your month ends and your quarter ends and your year ends are all aligned, if you do a month end like you do a year end with all of your supporting schedules, with all of your workflows, with all of your integrations, it makes it easier when you get to that year end close and there's limited work that you need to do to be audit ready. I think it's good to have improved communication with your auditor, to upfront highlight areas where you've had to apply some judgment. or where there are estimates. We do that regularly with our auditors to give them the heads up. It's a lot better for us to tell them, listen, we've got this issue. This is how we approached it. This is how we thought about it. This is how we got to the balances, rather than them finding this as they draw down through your financials, then starting with questions and then thinking, what is it that you are trying to hide? Reduce Excel, like I said, I think it's crucial for us. Cloud systems have got lots of benefits. I'm glad to see the results that people are trusting cloud systems. Also, a couple of years back, I was in the cybersecurity industry, and I know people said, no, we don't trust this cloud thing. Where's your data? How do you control it? How do you know someone else is not accessing it? We've gone past that now. We need to start and embrace cloud products. We can trust these products. I think there's been solid reputations built up. And once again, bringing that back to the audit, if you've got a cloud-based system, you can provide the auditor with their own access to your accounting system. They can access it from anywhere, which I think is a good thing given our current remote working circumstances. You can limit their access rights to a read-only thing. And if you've got a good system, a good ERP or a financial accounting system where the auditor can draw down from your trial balance into a transaction level, right down to supporting documents, it's just going to make everything a lot easier for you. That last poll question of yours, I think, was also very good, Brian, because I think it's important for us to realize that there's a massive investment in terms of money and effort from our customers' point of view when we implement a new system like this. We don't do this annually. I recall from years back that it's a massive decision to go for a new system. So when you make that decision after you've been on your existing system for 5 years plus maybe, then it's important to make sure that you pick the right product, that you pick a product that's going to support your business, support you in terms of getting the necessary insight, has the necessary integrations with other products out there that makes operating your business easier, and then also to help you to be audit ready with the least amount of effort. And I think that's what I have to share on getting your financials audit ready. So back to you, Brian.
All right, thanks for those insights. I think you've given us a very good sort of starting point there. You're done. So thank you for that. I'm going to stay with you. I've got Brad, but I'm not going to let him go cold. But I'm going to still quickly stay with you down quickly with my first kind of, as we build the conversation further. You know, you've spoken about quite a lot of things. You provide a lot of information, but from where you are right now and from the experience that you've had over the years, what do you think is the most challenging issue for finance professionals? What do they face right now?
I think that question which I highlighted, where people ask you in the business and you need to guide from a strategy point of view, where they're saying, what does the data tell us? We've got this decision to make. Is our business going left or is it going right? What does the numbers tell us? And you don't have that readily available. You have to go back and you have to analyze and you have to build reports. If you find these KPIs, which a lot of business decisions rely on, and you define them clearly and you can get them built into dashboards, which update automatically, that gives you a much better handle on how you are performing and making sure that you make those adjustments with your business on a more frequent basis. All
right. So, you know, and I want to pass this on to Brad perhaps, and bring you in Brad quickly. I think when we last spoke, you mentioned something quite interesting to me. You said my biggest challenge is that I'm in the business of milk, right? And you know, you're dealing with the perishable products here. You know, so what does it mean for you? What implications does your product have on getting ready for audit?
Thanks, Brian. The complexities with milk in itself is from an audit point of view, is the manufacture of milk is we take raw product and out of that make 3 or 4 different types of items from a kind of finished goods point of view. And that's very, very complex. And it's quite a fluid system, to use a pun. So the audit of that system needs to happen quite regularly. The first instance is when you're coming up with all your costings and how your bill of materials work, and how your finished products get packed. You have to have your auditor with you to make sure that you're getting it right, kind of figuring out what kind of needs to be figured out. The other thing is you need to be clued up as to what's happening with changes in costing methods. So you might do an activity-based costing system over here. You might do this type of costing over here. You might do bill of materials over there. So you need to have your auditor and IT experts and IT systems guys like Sage and those kind of folks quite close to you through that whole process to make sure that you're kind of getting it right. Because as your Don said, revenues at the top. What comes right under that is cost of sales, and you need to make sure that number is also right. So kind of figuring all that stuff out is quite critical when it kind of comes to an audit.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. You know, it's probably obviously constantly changing, and I'll come back to you at a later point and we'll talk about how technology is impacting that and perhaps benefiting you. You're done. Just from your experience, I mean, you've worked on various businesses, you've cited some of it. Tell us about your past experiences in implementing new finance systems within an organization. What kind of challenges have you foreseen, and how did you get ready?
So I've got an audit background, as I think most finance professionals have, and when you're in audit, you audit the systems, you don't implement them. But after that, when I went into commerce, I was involved with a couple of system implementations. The first thing, like I said in earlier, is that it's such a massive decision. You don't decide overnight, I'm going to throw out this system and put in another system. It's a long-term decision, so you have to find a partner that you can work with. If I'm saying partner, I mean partner in terms of the software, but also in terms of the business partners that you use to implement and to help you implement that software. I think what's more important these days is in terms of how things work in the ecosystem. So we've got lots and lots of ISVs that add on functionality to our core Sage products. And that's the way things happen. People specialize these days. There's either someone focusing heavily on point of sale or focusing heavily on inventory management. And you need to pick a system that integrates with other software elements with ease, because that's what's going to make you strong. Like I said, you want to steer away from systems that are not integrated. It's going to make things difficult for you on a day-to-day basis. So yes, long-term planning, picking the right system. If you're currently on an on-prem or desktop system, I think the whole world is shifting to cloud. So if you're going to make that cloud decision, make the right one, pick the right system, and also then look for that further integration into other software packages.
You know, I'm going to double tap on that before. I know you've already mentioned you're an astute fan of digitization and technology, etc. And you're already kind of giving us insights on some of the things that you need to do. But as a business, how do I know that I actually have the right accounting software or the right cloud solution to help me kind of manage the business? How do you reach that decision to say this is the one, or when do we need to change it?
That's a very good question and a challenging one. I think you need to talk to peers. I think that's very important. I think as a finance community, we need to talk more and share knowledge in terms of what other companies are using. That's probably the first point of call. If I were considering another system, is to get real experiences from other users of that system, to find out how they are finding the system, how difficult it was to implement the system, and how it's currently serving their business. Yeah, I think that's most important, Brian.
Yeah, I'm going to bring in Brad and try to perhaps get his relationship with technology and keeping the old school stuff, because, you know, as finance professionals, that spreadsheet is never far away. And sometimes, you've got a hybrid model. Brad, what are you doing? What is your perception on tech adoption and cloud solutions, etc.?
So I'm actually in an interesting place, which I think where most of the guys on the call are, where we're not cloud-based. We're looking at doing it, and we're doing exactly what your Don has been saying, where you've got to talk to other guys. You're looking at this service provider versus that service provider versus your current system. And then what most likely happens is the finance person has to champion this kind of change. So you have to be kind of ready for it as well. So I've been looking at the likes of Sage and of Sage's competitors, who we won't mention today. But what you need to do, or what we do here, is I try and make sure that the system caters for 90% of what needs to happen. So in terms of your big bulk transactions, the getting things in, doing your big journal entries, all that kind of good stuff, and then the Excel kind of that doesn't need to be there, but in our business it is, because that's where you can do a little bit more of the kind of flexible stuff. So where you do some of your dashboard work, or where you're doing modeling changes, or where you're doing things like that. And then how we're currently using it is, I use Excel to try and get the system where I need it to get to, because Excel's a bit more fluid. I know what the answer needs to be, and then using Excel, I can then, through a period of months, because normally these are not simple changes. If you change something over here, it will ultimately impact something over there that you weren't kind of thinking about. Using Excel, you can get those two numbers closer together over a kind of period of time. So Excel is still very important in our lives, mainly because of its flexibility. But ultimately, I think everybody long term needs to try and get the system to cater for 90 to 95% of what you need to do as a finance professional, because in that you've got all your audit checks and balances built into kind of most of them.
Yeah, and I'm hearing kind of a lot of hybrid kind of, do what works for your business, right? To totally understand your business and find out what works. So speaking to your peers, et cetera, et cetera. You're done. I'm going to come back to you, and and perhaps just to wrap up our technology discussion, and we can move on to some finance stuff. Some say that kind of getting ready for audit is a painful process, right? How can we make this? How can we make this enjoyable? I mean, what do you have to do to get yourself and enjoy this part of the journey?
Brian, before I answer that question, I just want to go back to what Brad has said. I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. I use Excel daily still. And it's something which we need to aspire to, is to do less Excel and have more reporting and the dashboards and all of that sitting within our systems. So yes, I understand that to challenge ourselves and the people that worked, and they do want to use many approach to adopt that. I know some people challenge their team members and tell them to, take a week off of their usual responsibilities at work, take a break, but go and automate something for us. Experiment with it, see what you can reduce in terms of Excel, how you can help us build a certain dashboard. And then of that week's effort where you had to cover for someone in your team, you've got a report or a piece of automation you can continue using for an extended period of time. In terms of your question on getting audit ready, I don't think it's a pleasant exercise for anyone. I know finance teams dread going through audits, and auditors, on the other hand, are also trying to add value in what it is that they're doing and making it as efficient and cost-effective for their customers. So I think collaboration is important, like I said, throughout the year, not just when it is time for your audit. I think in terms of your closes, monthly and quarterly and annually, if you get that process streamlined, it's also going to be to your benefit. Cloud systems have a lot of benefits in terms of the access, like I said. So, it's easier to give the auditors access to the system. If you think how this worked traditionally with audit, you would give your auditor an Excel spreadsheet with a GL dump, and then they would use that Excel spreadsheet and do a sample from that. Okay, for these highlighted transactions, we want to see the supporting invoice, the bank statement where you paid them, etc., etc. If you've got all of that in your cloud system, and you can give the audit access to the cloud system, they can go into your account, they can drill down into your cash book to see where the payment was actually made. And if you use your system, they can look at the supporting document, which may be an invoice from one of your suppliers. So that's how far it really go. So you have that whole back and forth between the audit team and your finance team by giving them the necessary access and making sure that your system has got more in terms of drawdown functionality and having all of your documentation and supporting docs and workflows.
We're having a bit of a challenge with, I don't know, it's me, perhaps other attendees are also experiencing with your connection. You can perhaps try turn off your camera, maybe that'll help in the next bit. But I'm going to move on to Brad quickly. Brad, just tell if you could tell us at least about your process. What are the things you look out for? What are you currently doing with for that process of getting audit ready? Perhaps you could tell us your experiences.
So our audit ready process is actually something which starts, and it sounds quite counterintuitive, but at the budget process, which is if you handle your kind of budget process properly, hopefully you get the bulk of the decision makers in your business all in one room, and then all thinking about what's going to happen over the next 12 to 18 months. In that, then over those next 12 to 18 months, you obviously then will have to sit with everybody and have regular kind of feedback sessions. So what we do from an audit ready, so that's the first process, is 6 months prior to the year starts, you kind of carry on with your budget process. You get everybody thinking about the next 12 to 18 months post that. Monthly after that, me and my team will sit and run through every single GL in the business as if it was a mock audit. That then also makes sure that there's no, which kind of does happen, there's no rubbish sitting in any of the numbers anyway, and also make sure that the numbers are then right monthly. So we have full audit files that if I had to have an interim audit on the May month, I could hand over audit files to those guys, and then they could audit just the May month in itself. And I must kind of, I don't have a massive team. I've got a team of 4. So it's not like you need, a big kind of finance team to get these processes right. It's just building those processes over a kind of long period of time and getting into a nice rhythm. After that, then obviously we will do a Q1 look, a Q2 look, where you're looking at budget versus variance versus actuals, and you're doing an H1 and H2, and then you're doing a full year view as well. So you've basically gone through the budget process and 12 to 14 mini audits where you're looking at quarter ones, monthlies, and half years, so that when it comes to audit time, the business is so in tune with the quality of the numbers and the rhythm of getting the numbers out on time, and that it's not a big shock to come in and now you've got to do all these big journal entries that the auditors normally kind of hit you with. The only real journals that we post here for audit journals are deferred tax, because nobody likes to do deferred tax. So thankful. But those are the only real ones. The bulk of your journals should have been done throughout your course of your normal business. But I must also tell you, I don't have to deal with what people call the big IFRS. We are part of IFRS for SME, so any of this new stuff, IFRS 9, things like that, I don't really have to look at, which kind of does help as well, which I think is the bulk of the people on here on this call. So the kind of short answer is just get into a rhythm where every single month you're doing a mini audit with your team, or kind of an internal audit where you've got monthly files, and that it's not a year-end exercise, it's a daily exercise. That'll definitely help you get through it.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of daily things that you have to do in order to get that ready. I mean, I think you mentioned some of this when you spoke. What are the other things? Are there anything else that you're doing, to kind of get past corporate malfeasance, etc.? Your SOX testing. What else is involved, right?
Yeah, so we obviously sell, and I say obviously we sell to a broad customer base, and the bulk of a large portion of our sales are still cash based. So we have debtor customers who pay us with terms, and we have guys that pay us daily with cash. And in any business where you deal with cash on a kind of daily basis, you have to make sure that there's controls at every single checkpoint. You have to inculcate levels of accountability at every single level, where people know that this is what they can do, this is what they can't do. You have to have policies which are clearly written and clearly told to kind of all of them, which is kind of critical. You have to have daily checks. So we have 3-way checks on cash and stock, because cash is the backbone of your business. So you're going to have to make sure that it's being looked at on a daily basis. The longest that we will leave the bank account, general ledger, unreconciled in this business is 3 days, which is normally a Friday to a Monday, because I don't have guys here on a Monday. But we are doing a full GL recon of the bank account every day. And the last thing, which is a bit of a kind of soft issue, is you need to keep talking to your kind of finance guys as to what's happening in the business, even if it's from a CapEx point of view or an OpEx point of view, or anything that's kind of happening. Guys, apparently we're now going to go and buy one of these. Okay, and this is how it's going to work. Where do you think it should be posted? No, it should be posted here and here and here, because this is how it looks. So it's constant talking to them and constant, bouncing thoughts kind of off of them to one, impart as much knowledge as you can onto them, and the other is to get things processed right. Because if things are processed right, the auditor really doesn't have to do much. So it's a full team effort from top to bottom, or actually bottom to top.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to bring in Jordan quickly, and Jordan, I also want to hear from you from a Sage perspective. Big company, what is your process? How are you getting audit ready? Perhaps just give us a few nuggets there in terms of your own internal process. But also, I'll make this a two-part question. Has there been any kind of seismic shifts in the way that you are kind of getting ready to report, given the environment we are in now, COVID, etc.? Has that caused any changes at all?
My sound is going to be better, Brian. I've made a couple of adjustments. There's an awful lot that we do. I think most importantly to note is that we're obviously part of a globally listed company, so there's a lot of listing requirements as well. On top of that, because we're a SaaS business, there's some additional numbers that we get audited annually, which sits outside of the normal framework, which is things like our annual recurring revenue, which has got its own set of procedures. So the requirements, there's a lot of communication that needs to happen for us, between us and the auditors, but also for us between Sage in Africa, Middle East and APAC with the Sage reporting team that sits, or the group team that sits globally. If you think about something like the COVID-19 impact, it's something which we assess on a global scale. All of the regions don't follow their own methodology. We basically do a global analysis of what the impact is, and that gets pushed down to the region. So there's a lot of cooperation between us and the group team in the UK. I want to just quickly latch on to something which Brad has said, and that's in terms of getting the numbers right in your accounting system, recording your transactions accurately. There's a lot of people that have got this perception of automation that it's going to put us out of work. And that apparently was the thoughts back in the day when they brought out the ATM as well. People working in banks were saying, you know, we're all going to lose our jobs because they're going to put these automatic teller machines in place where you can draw money. And we know that's not what happened in terms of ATMs. What it actually allows you to do is you can get people that are currently responsible for just capturing transactions to actually start doing more technical work, you know, getting involved in the analysis rather than the recording. So if you can force yourself to keep innovating, to keep automating, and to see how you can get away from just capturing to uplifting people to look into the numbers, rather analyze than record, I think that's a massive step forward.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a good insight there. And I think there's always this kind of fear. Brad, I want to come to you. Any seismic shifts given the context we are in now in terms of how you are getting audit ready?
Not really from an audit ready point of view. Like I said, we were, prior to this whole kind of COVID thing, we had already implemented a process where we were looking at the numbers in detail every month. So you've got full audit files from GL code number 1 to GL code number 99, with full kind of recons, making sure that you're on top of kind of everything. Where we have changed our reporting kind of somewhat is more from a working capital point of view, where we moved to a more kind of risk-based view, to kind of have a look at what was going on with our customers, when their kind of payment dates were going to be, who was impacted by lockdown and who wasn't, what my current daily kind of cash balances were, what my current run rates were, and what was going on with my suppliers, who from them needed money earlier, who from them didn't. So you could basically figure out if you were floating or not in the last 16 months, which has been a bit tough for us. What we're kind of going to keep on that, is the cash balances view, which I think is critical for any business. Now we know what's going on daily, and the supplier's point of view, which will keep as well the data's point of view. If you're a kind of customer on the other side of the fence, you don't want to be asked every single day when you're going to be pushing pay. So we'll kind of leave those guys that are fine for now. But that being said, the ones that are battling, you need to be talking to them, even if it's just, hey, how you doing? Can I help you in any way possible? It's been tough for many of our kind of clients out there, so we do what we can.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Brian, just one last comment quickly.
Yeah, sure.
in terms of the technology and cooperating with your auditors, I think it's important. Auditors are also trying to innovate and to be more efficient with the software that they use with their audit. So I think if you can collaborate with your auditor to see where you can make better use of their analytical software, where you can help them with the quality of data that you provide them, that's also going to give you a lot of efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to use Auditor software because no one really likes to be asked questions by auditors, right? It's never really a nice experience. I want to encourage my audience here. If you want to ask questions, it's not every day we get top finance leaders on these kind of webinars. It's a good opportunity to throw in your questions in the chat so I can pull them out, and a great opportunity to ask some questions. I see somebody already has asked a question, and I'd like to jump on it quickly. I think it comes, it's on the chat, it's for Bradley. It says, for business like yours, how important is management accounting analysis for audits? I think it's a two-part question, and usually the internal staff are interested in the data, but I'm interested in knowing how it affects your audits. So I don't know if you got that, Bradley. How important is management accounts analysis?
So the management accounts are, as Samuel says, they are normally used as a kind of internal tool. What we've kind of set up here is we use it as a budget variance tool as well. And kind of like I said earlier, is if you treat your budget as a fairly serious exercise, it's not just a box ticking exercise where you have a number that you're going to kind of track to, but you teach the whole business, or you're dealing with the whole business when it comes to budget planning time, then the you can use your budget as actually an audit tool, because what you're doing is you're checking to where you're at. Well, I thought printing was going to be 1,000 Rand. It's now 3,000 Rand. Why? It's never been that. And then you go have a look, and there's a misposting there, or there's this problem, or there's this problem. So it's using so we use our packs monthly to kind of make sure that the data is sanitized versus what we kind of thought it would be, because we put the effort in at budget stage to have a realistic expectation of what those kind of numbers would be. Basically it's just it's a tool to make sure that everything is posted in the kind of right place. And then if you set up your management accounts to be not friendly, but to comply with all the rules that are currently out there, then you can then use those as a kind of second step to just make sure that when your final TB is sent to whoever your kind of audit firm is, you've taken care of 90 to 95% of what needs to happen.
Yeah, thanks for that. You're done. Any comments from your side on that question? Perhaps you've got something to add.
So Brian, what we need to do in terms of our monthly reporting is we need to do exactly what Brad has said, compared to your budgets and your forecasts, but then explain what those differences are and say, why this product has overperformed, why this product has underperformed in terms of your costs and all of that. That commentary of ours is recorded once again in a central cloud system, which means that the group who consolidates our numbers have got immediate access to that. But then also what we do is we give the auditors access to the monthly commentary, which means that all of those variance analysis questions that they would typically come to you with to say, why is this product overperforming compared to your budget? They can actually go and look in your commentary and see where you've already said why it's overperforming. And it's just a lot more efficient that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. As we get to the tail end of this, I'm going to give one opportunity to Jordan and one opportunity to Brad. Any closing remarks? I'll start off with you, Jordan, for our audience. What would you like them to go and do after this? And then I'll move on to the same question with Brad.
I think it's important for us to keep ourselves focused on innovation, to experiment, to move with the technology, not be afraid of it, and see where it can really help you. If you are in a position where you can speak to your peers, I think is very important, because if you don't know what's out there and what's available in terms of software or add-ons to your software or processes, you're going to be locked in your own bubble and not know what's going on. So keep innovating.
Yeah, and then just from my side, when it comes to kind of auditors, make sure you partner with an auditor that understands your business, knows what you are and what your business is trying to achieve. An audit can be a value add. It doesn't need to be a box-ticking exercise. It doesn't need to be all kind of doom and gloom. Most of us on this call have been auditors, so we've been sitting on the other side of the fence, where you walk into a client's office and he just looks at you like you've come here to just irritate him. So if you kind of partner with the right person and use that partner or audit firm as a tool, because we as finance professionals you'll never know everything. You'll never be on top of all the new rules and regs that are kind of out there. So partner with the right people and then lean on them. That'll also help you get through this.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Jordan Verga, Senior Vice President of SAGE, Middle East and Africa and APAC, also known as Asia Pacific. Very long there, but well done. Thank you, Bradley Wenzel, CFO, Douglas Dale, for those nuggets and insights that you shared, ladies and gentlemen. That said, that brings us to the end of our session today. And upcoming next, we've got case study, The Power of Planning. That's happening on the 15th, which is actually tomorrow. Look out for that one that's coming up, and followed, we'll go to AWS. We'll talk more about the cloud and the risks and rewards of that migration process that you might be thinking of doing. And then on the 22nd of July, we've got another case study, the Finance Automation Promise. How is that realized? We'll talk to TWK's office on how that can be done. And then we'll talk to bots. What is it like? What are the bots doing in your cars? We've got Hyundai in the game talking to us at the end of July on the 29th. So look forward to having you all joining the session. And once that, thank you once again to Sage. Thank you to Bradley for coming onto this call. And with that, have a good afternoon.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.